Hi, hello everyone, Rosie here. Let's see, I think I got this in view. Let me just try to tuck this cable away. If I change the angle of my computer, let's see. Hi, Jennifer. All right, see if I can get my phone to stay put. Hello, Darlene. Oh, good grief. 1 second, folks. Just gonna unplug this really quick. Okay. Just trying to get my cable out of the way. Hi, Jennifer. All right, I'm going to pull you guys up on my computer so I can see comments. Bum-ba-dum. Awesome. All right. Sorry, my computer is... Here we go. Fabulous. Hi, Lorraine. Hello. How's everyone doing this fine Thursday? Let's see if I have my die cut machine in. There we go. Can see that better. Just move some things out of the way. Hopefully I can find them when I'm looking for them. Happy Thursday. All right, my phone keeps wanting to do something I don't want it to do. Let's see. All right, so you guys, die cutting. Oh my goodness. I kind of had to narrow it down. There's like, you could talk for hours about this. I want spring back. Eventually, Lorraine, or we might just skip right to summer. I don't know. Yeah, there's a lot of snow out there. Do you have a lot in your neck of the woods as well, Lorraine? We have quite a bit of snow here. All right. So we've got a few people joining in. That's awesome. Now feel free to fire off any questions that you might have regarding die cutting. I'm going to go over kind of the basics of, how we die cut, the types of dies that there are. Just cold. Okay. Well, that's nice. You don't have snow. You don't have to shovel then. Yeah, so we'll talk about the different types of dies. When you start looking through your stash, you realize, wow, I've got a lot of different kinds of dies. Kind of go over, if you have a die cutting machine already, you might kind of know some of these tips that I'm going to go over. If you don't have one, well, we'll tell you all about them. So feel free to fire off any questions that you might have. And anything. So let's start with, okay, what is die cutting? So your dies are metal, essentially pieces of metal that you can cut paper. Depending on the type of die, you might be able to cut chipboard, fabric, all of that type of stuff. Okay, so they are all metal dies. Now, what you're probably most familiar, if you're already a card maker, are the coordinating dies for your stamps. Okay, that's generally what most of us have. And as I said, we'll kind of get into all the different types of dies as well. So this would be the most common. We have our little metal dies that will cut out our stamped image. Okay, just like that. All right. Now, there are an awful lot of other types of dies as well. So again, if you're a card maker, you're probably most familiar with your matching dies to your stamp sets. But some things that are super helpful are also these nested frame dies. Okay, so this is a circle one. So it's a series of circles. I'm not even sure what the smallest measurement is. Let's see if it tells me on here. So 0.16 of an inch is the smallest circle, and then our largest circle is 4.5 by 4.5 in this particular set. Okay, so if you're just kind of thinking about getting into card making and die cuts, I highly recommend some basic shapes. So your rectangles for sure would be a basic shape that you would like. Okay, this again is some layering rectangles. Okay, and you can use these to create your card fronts, to cut card size, A2 size papers for your cards, and some other things too, but I'll kind of show you that as we go along. Now, if you like the hand stitched or the faux stitching, you can get dies that have a faux stitching look on here, and maybe I'll cut out a piece of paper here so you can kind of see what that looks like. I'm just going to pick a smaller one, just to give you an idea of what that looks like. All right, so I'm going to just quickly run this through. And then you can kind of get a look. And you can get the faux stitching dies in circles, all sorts of different shapes as well, not just in the rectangle. Okay, so here's what that edge gives us. Okay, so you get a nice little faux stitched edge. Okay, so I highly recommend a set like this as well, in addition to kind of your rectangle shapes, if you like that faux stitching. Okay, now before we get too into the different types of dies, I just want to talk a little bit about your plates as well. Okay, when you get a die cut machine, it's going to come with your base plate, and then you've got your cutting plates. And what I have done is I've picked up one of these. This is an iCrafter self-healing mat. Where is my other one? I have a magic mat too. This one's out of stock right now in the store, but I highly recommend this. And this would just replace one of your clear plates. So the nice thing with this is it just helps extend the life of your plates. And you see this one's got a bit of a warp to it. It can kind of just help, doesn't really eliminate that warp. I mean, over time, when your plates are well used, they will kind of tend to get a little bit of a warp to them. But if you replace one of your plates with like a self-healing mat like this, it really helps to kind of extend the life of that plate and help eliminate some of the warping as well. Okay, so we'll keep that handy to use as we go on. And so I just want to show you kind of the rest of the types of dies. Okay, so we've got our shape dies, we've got stitching dies. You can also get, this is a frame die, so it cuts out a scalloped frame to create a window. Okay, and we'll kind of go over that as well in a little bit. And again, here's another essential. This is a blanket stitch, so there's all sorts of different types of nesting dies like this. I've got this one here that's circle. What is that called? Zigzag. Okay, so this is just great when you want to add even just a little mat to your, let's say you've got a cute critter image you're coloring, and you can just create a mat out of this, and it just adds some interest to your card fronts. Okay, so those would be great for creating layers. Now, you can also get some, what I like to call standalone dies. Okay, and so there are so many different kinds. This is a leaf set. This is called Curvy Leaves by Pink Fresh. And these are fun. You can build a background with these. So let's say you can just die cut a whole bunch of these different greens And then we can just fill out your background here. Glue those all down. Okay, and now you've got kind of a custom, and I would fill in with a few more. I just wanted to show you that sometimes these kind of individual standalone dies, you kind of might look at them and think, okay, I'm going to combine that with maybe a floral set, but you can actually create a really pretty background just with these die cuts. Okay, now that would be a standalone. Now we've also got, you can also find dies such as this one that will just pierce. So it doesn't cut all the way through, but it'll just pierce your background. So let me run that through so you can have a look at what that looks like. So just grab a piece of paper here. That'll be fine. It doesn't have to cover the whole image. Okay, so I'm just going to run that through to show you. So those pierced dies add a lovely little bit of texture to your card front. Hello, Lynn. Hi, Laura. All right. And that's that pierced look. So really pretty on a card front. You could even just use this by itself with a sentiment. I'd probably put a sentiment down here. Okay, but that's what that pierced look will give you as well. Okay, so I'm just going to set this aside. Now, you can also get, sorry about that, word dies. Okay, now these are great for adding a sentiment to your cards. This set comes with the shadow and then also the actual word itself. Okay, so, and there's a lot of different techniques you can do with these as well. We can create an outline, we can create an inlay. Hi, Melanie. Hello, Jenny. Hi, Diane. So all sorts of fun things we can do with that. And I like to kind of, like I sat down and I die cut a whole bunch of these, hence my little baggie here. And then when I'm making a card, they're kind of all ready to go. So for example, if I had to whip up a quick card, I could do that with this little die cut here. And where's my thanks? With this, pierced plate, and then just add a simple thanks and maybe a few gems. Done. All right. So I highly recommend like a word die set, something like this that's got a bunch of different words on it is perfect. And that is always handy to have in your stash for putting sentiments together. Okay. Now we can get into some really fun dies. There's also layering die sets. Okay, and I'll cut this one. And so this is an all-to-new one where you're creating a 3D flower in essence. So I'll kind of show you that in a little bit here. Once we kind of jump into just a few samples and a few different techniques. Hi, Joyce. So this is a fun one to use too. And then, of course, there's oodles and oodles. This isn't a 3D layering set, but it's all these blooms that we can die cut and layer up and put together. But I'll kind of show you that as we go along as well. Okay. Yeah, it's a great basic sentiment die set, absolutely. Now, most of what I'm showing you, actually, I think everything that I'm showing you, we don't have in the store right now. So if there's anything that you're thinking like, oh, I have got to get my hands on that, make sure you just fire Sandy an email at sandy@scrapshots.com, put special order in the title, and let her know what you're looking for. Okay, So let's jump into kind of a few different ways that we can use these dies. In addition to just kind of the basic, if I was creating a layering mat or something to mat something on my card front. Oh, and the other thing, sorry, I forgot to show you guys too. I didn't mention that, cover dies on the Altany flowers. These ones. Yeah, that's the Southern Magnolia layering die set, and they are beautiful. When we put that flower together, I'll kind of show you how that comes together. And layering dies as well, or cover dies. So these will cover an entire card front. Okay. And I'll show you this one in particular. I'll a little bit later on, I'll kind of show you a couple different ways to use this guy as well. Well, maybe one different way other than the obvious. Okay. So those are the kinds of dies. Now, what are you going to need, or maybe not necessarily have to have, other than your die cut machine for die cutting, but really comes in handy? Your craft pick, that always comes in handy to, especially if you're working with, like, for example, these leaves that are a bit more intricate and they might get stuck within the die. So you can use your craft pick to poke your paper out, or the Spellbinders all-in-one tool, or tool-in-one, comes in handy to get your die cuts out of your die. A magnetic pickup tool, something that will pick up your dies or to keep them in place. I've actually got, I'm not sure if I'll be able to show this in the camera. I've got this guy. That's actually a tonic. It's large, so it's fills up my kind of the black area, the work area here on my glass mat. But this is a magnetic holder, I guess. So it kind of sits like this. So if you're doing a lot of die cutting, you've got a lot of little pieces here, something to keep everything in place and to keep you from losing anything, comes in super, super handy. So I love this. If you're someone who does a lot of die cutting and you've got a lot of small, intricate, little pieces, this bad boy is great to keep everything in one place and from getting lost. Okay. Let's bring back in the die cut machine. All right. Now, one of the things, I just wanted to show you this, for example. We'll start with this. So, shaped cards can be pretty fun to make. And if you've got any of these shaped die cuts, I've got this Essential Stylish Ovals. We can create a shaped card, using one of these dies. So what I've done is I've just taken my paper, 8.5 by 11 sheet of cardstock, and I folded that. And now what I'm going to do is line up the die, and I want just a little bit, of this hanging off the edge here. Okay, because this is going to be an actual card base, so I don't want to cut through the fold, because I want to be able to open that. So another thing that is super duper handy with die cutting is this tape. It's a low tack tape. This is from Spellbinders. Yeah, the ovals are fantastic, Jenny. You will love them. So this is a low tack tape, so it's going to hold our die in place on the paper while we run it through the die cut machine. And the best part of this tape is that it's not going to rip your paper. Okay, so I'm just going to make sure that my die is centered there. And I'm going to roll that through. And because I'm going through 2 layers of paper, I'm just going to run it back a second time here. All right. So we'll pull that off, and you've got a super easy shaped card. Okay. So very easy to do. Now, let's say, we'll kind of use this as an example. Let's say we wanted to create a window in this shaped card. I'm going to go ahead and take another, let's see, a smaller, one of the smaller ovals. Okay, I'm going to open this up, and then I'm going to, I'm the queen of eyeball, so I'm kind of going to eyeball that. Okay, and pop my tape on there, kind of cut it in half a little bit. And grab my other piece. Hang on. I hoard this tape. I always keep teeny tiny pieces and then just reuse it until it's all the stick is gone. Okay. So I can layer that on there. Let me grab my top plate. And I can run this through. And now I've got a window in the front of this card. And that. So especially if you've got like your rectangle shapes or circles, that works great for creating a shaker card. So here I've just pre-cut a circle out of this card front. And if I wanted to create a shaker card, I'd put my acetate right here, glue it right down, and then I could add a foam tape around here, and then I've got my little shaker card front. So I'm just going to show you, this was, can't remember if this was for Crop and Create, but this is using the stylish ovals. This is a plate that, or a die that pierces and cuts from Spellbinders. You can see here we cut out the center of this oval to create the shaker window. And then it's just a series of layers after that. Okay, so super, super simple for shaker cards. Okay, just gonna check my notes here. All right. Now, another thing you can do, especially with your basic shapes, is we can create frames. Let me use I did one out of circles, but I'm going to use the rectangles here just to show you. We'll pick a couple of different sizes here. So, okay, so let's say we'll pick this one and this one. All right. So I can take my dies here. I'm just going to grab a piece of cardstock. All right. So just set that aside for a second here. So let's say I wanted to create a frame. It doesn't matter if it's centered because I'll kind of center it, then I can use the outside for something else. So you want to put the cutting side down, clearly. And I'm just going to line these guys up. And again, I'm just kind of eyeballing that till it kind of looks fairly even all the way around. Okay, I can grab a piece of my tape here. I'm going to have to get a longer piece, I think. Oh, there we go. All right. So I've got that lined up, and this is why a set of dies in like your basic shapes are fantastic, because then if you've got circles, squares, and rectangles, then you've got kind of all your basic shapes covered, and it works great, especially for if you want to create basic frames, for example. All right, so I'm going to run that through. Okay, and so now I've got myself a perfect frame that I can use on a card front. So super easy to do those. And so one reason, you might be thinking, well, why would I want to create a frame? Well, if you've got some, like your inside piece, if you're cutting that anyways, you can actually create kind of that look of layers without the bulk. So, so I'll show you first. So for example, so these are some circles I die cut yesterday, just out of various colors of cardstock. So you could kind of layer them like this onto your card, or what you can do as well is using your frame dies. You can cut a frame out of those layers as well. And then you can, let me grab a little card front here. So here I've cut out a number of frames. And so this is a nice way to add kind of a look, kind of make it look like you're, they're layered on top like this, but without the bulk. Okay, so where I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, this would be 5 thicknesses of paper, I can get that same look, but with one layer of cardstock. So it's just another way to kind of use those dies. And now see, I've got one, like I said, one layer of paper. So it cuts down on the bulk a little bit, if that is a consideration for the card you're creating in the moment. Okay, so super great way to use those basics. So I'm just going to put these away where I won't forget where they are, and we're going to talk about partial die cutting, which I actually have not done very much of. Has anyone done partial die cutting before? Oh, and unfortunately I didn't have time to make a sample, but another thing that's great with your basic shapes is if it's fantastic on pattern paper as well. If you kind of want to highlight your pattern paper, you can cut layers of it and pop them up, and all sorts of fun stuff you can do with those basic shapes. So I highly, highly recommend them. Okay, so I'm going to move these guys out of the way here real quick so I don't lose them. And we're going to talk about partial die cutting. When would you use it? Why would you use it? Just add some interest to your image or your card. Now, where did I put that card? I've got to dig under my papers here, guys. 1 second. There it is. All right. So partial die cutting. So I stamped this image here yesterday. Hi, Lisa. Okay. And so my card's going to go this way. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'd like to have the edge of this image kind of be the edge of the front of my card. Oh, some disasters and some wins. We'll see if I can get it right. Jennifer and Cynthia. Yeah, Jennifer is always partial die cutting and it looks beautiful. Okay, so first thing, because I've stamped this on the card base itself, so I want to make sure I open up that card base because I don't want to cut through 2 layers. Okay, I want this layer behind to stay the way it is. Okay, and I'm just going to tape my die in place here. And this is from an Altenew set that I had in my stash. I actually looked on their site. I don't think it's even available anymore. It's probably that old. Okay, so I'm going to tape this in place with my low tack tape. All right. There we go. Okay. Okay, now, because this is the edge that I want to be die cut. Okay, so when I put my plate down, I'm going to place it. Okay, so I'm going to place this plate up to the spot that I want my die to cut, if that makes sense. Okay, so I've got my plate here along this edge, so everything to the right will not die cut. Okay, only what's underneath my top plate, my clear plate, is going to cut. Okay, so we'll run that through. Move that out of the way. Awesome. Okay. All right, so now I can pull that off. So everything, okay, you can see here where that's die cut. Now what I'm going to do is just take my ruler and my craft knife and kind of cut through. You might have a hard time seeing that, but I'm going to line that up here along the edge. And I'm just going to take my craft knife and run it right down here to just release that paper. Because our die cuts around the shape, right, of our bloom, of our stamped image, but not the edge of the... I'm going to cut that a little bit too far in. Can come in and finish that off with my scissors. There we go. And then we'll just trim that off. Okay, and so now I've got that shaped edge. So I kind of experimented with this yesterday a little bit, just to make sure I knew what I was doing. Okay, and so just simply I just added a piece of pattern paper here. That's something you can do. All right, and you could also die cut out of your pattern paper and then kind of inlay it around here as well. That's always fun too, but super easy to get that edge on there. Thanks, Lorraine. Yeah, so that's a fun way to use, you know, some of your, if you've got some really large floral images, that's a kind of a fun way to highlight the image on your card. Okay, so that is partial die cutting, which I think that now that I've tried it, and it's pretty easy, and I managed to not mess it up live, I think I could actually do this again. All right. So let me just pop that aside, out of the way. And now let's bring in, let's see. Why don't we look at this cover die really quick here? Okay. All right. So I've got this cover die, and now we're just going to run this through. My die cut machine, but I want to give you a couple of tips. So when you're working with kind of a large background die like this, you're going to want to run this through your die cut machine at an angle, okay? and I'll show you. I might need a bigger piece of paper. Hang on. I cut down my card fronts, but some are not quite. I want them a little bit. Yeah, this one's better. Oh, maybe not. I just need to make sure it gets all the way to that edge. I'm just going to grab here. Bear with me. You think you're prepared, and then you... There we go. We'll do it out of this guy. That's a larger piece of paper. Okay. So what do I mean by a bit of an angle? So rather than running this through straight on, you're just going to tilt your die a little bit here, and I'm going to put a little tape on here to make sure it doesn't shift. And you're going to run it at a little bit of an angle like this, and it just helps kind of get that die cutting smoothly all the way through, especially if you've got an intricate die, a larger intricate die. And what you may need to do as well, if when you run your die through the first time you're finding it doesn't cut all the way through, you can add a piece of cardstock underneath your base layer, and that will help add a little bit more pressure to get a clean cut all the way through. Okay, so I'm going to run that through one way, and then I'm going to go right back the other way as well. So if you've got some cover dies that you're having a hard time getting them to cut cleanly all the way through, try putting your die at an angle, and if that doesn't work, or you're still not quite getting it to cut all the way through, see, because you can see here it's got a little bit of a, doesn't quite get as much pressure on that corner. Okay, so I'm going to, let me just get rid of all these guys. You could keep some of these pieces if you wanted to do an inlay, but there's way too many pieces to do an inlay with this guy. We'll talk about inlay in a little bit. It's a fun technique, but some dies lend themselves well to it and others not quite so much. Okay, so I'm gonna pop this through one more time to just get that other corner to cut all the way through. There we go. All right. Awesome. Okay. There we go. Oh, it still didn't cut all the way through. All right. So I'm going to grab myself a piece of cardstock and just add that underneath my base here to get that one side cut out. So this is actually good that it's not cutting all the way through, so then I can show you how we can fix that. Okay, now I did have a piece of cardstock here before that I used, except now I don't know where it went. It disappeared. Well, maybe it's underneath my die cut machine. There it is. Okay, so just a piece of cardstock I've used before. I'm going to pop that on my base, and we're going to put this guy through one last time, just to get those corners to cut. Okay, one more time. All right. There we go. Now it's popping out. All right. So that little piece of cardstock just added the perfect amount of pressure, and now we've got everything die cut. Okay. So this is when your all-in-one tool comes in handy to just get all those papers out. It's got a little pokey end here as well, so I'm just going to take off the, there we go. I think I had a little tape there. Okay, and now we've got all of our little die cut card front. Now, if you've got any of these, we'll see, I have a little piece that didn't quite come out, but we're not going to worry about that right now. If you've got any of these cover dies, or some cover dies that, you know, kind of have that geometric type shape here, play around with your die cuts. So what do I mean by that? Well, we can use this by itself on a card front, okay? But what you can also do, I've die cut this from a different color of cardstock, but if I turn it around, so now I've kind of flipped it completely over the opposite way, I can kind of create an interesting layered effect, okay? Just with two die cuts from the same die. Now it looks like a layering die. Okay, so experiment with your cover dies, pardon me. So your card front dies, because that's just a neat way to add a little bit of a interest to your card, and you're getting kind of, you know, 2 for 1, being able to use that die in 2 different ways. And when I talked about embossing, I think I showed you guys how to emboss with this die as well. So you can emboss a cover die as well, which I did this earlier. You're just going to make sure that you're going to need an embossing mat if you want to use your dies to emboss, okay? Another great way to get a little bit more use out of your dies, especially these cover dies, because they tend to be a little bit of a higher price point. Okay, so that's those dies. Just quickly getting rid of these paper scraps. Okay, now what else can we do with our dies? Well, you can create an inlaid look, okay? And what does that mean? Well, we're basically going to take our die cut shape and add in some different colors of paper, of cardstock, I should say. So I'm going to pull out, I've had this guy in my stash for a while, and that is a 3D floral cover die. This one's from Altenew. Again, it's not in the shop right now, but if you do want Sandy to order it in, she definitely can order that in for you. Okay, so I've gone ahead earlier and I've die cut this. We'll actually go over it with some colored cardstock as well. So I've die cut this die, and then I've glued the negative, I guess, onto a card front. Okay, and so now we're going to do some inlay. Okay, so previously I die cut, so here's kind of all the inside pieces. So what I did when I die cut this, let me just show you. I'm just going to grab the die. That should be, there it is. We're finding things. I haven't lost everything. Okay, so here's the actual die. Okay, so when I cut this out of white cardstock, just want to explain to you how I got all those pieces out. Okay, so I ran this through my die cut machine, but I ran it through with my, there it is. Okay, so I ran this through, but I kept this piece on top. Actually, I'll run it through right now and show you. Oh, Vanessa, they are so good. I've got, I mean, this is a manual machine. You actually can get electric die cut machines as well. And then I add, oh, Colleen, that's not fun. Yeah, like if your plates are breaking, then there's too much pressure because your plate shouldn't break. So you might just have to you know, when you add your shim, so if you're going to add a shim to help cut through your intricate die, just kind of, if you really have to force it through, then your shim is too tight. Now there are, trying to think, you could also try, you know what, I forgot to look it up. One of the girls was mentioning she uses like bubble wrap, not bubble wrap, but like the packaging from Amazon that your order comes in with intricate die cuts, and that actually works quite well. So that might be something, maybe Google that, and you might want to give that a try if you've got some intricate dies that aren't cutting through. Yes, Vanessa, there are electric ones. Gemini is one. I think Sizzix has one as well. Sandy can hook you up. She can hook your dad up. Okay, so I've just taped my cardstock in place, but I'm going to run it through cutting side up onto my plate, and I'll show you why. Okay, because this is a great die, but it's got a lot of little pieces. So, and I'm just going to tilt this again a little bit. There we go. I had pretty good luck the first time I cut through this, so it should cut through. All right. So I'm going to run that through. Whoops, my ruler's underneath. That does not help. Okay. Okay, and you can see I'm just holding that top mat down. Now I want to be careful when I lift that off. Okay, so I lost a couple of little circles here. We'll see if I can pop them back in. That may not pop back in. Not a big deal. Okay, so before I kind of remove this from the die, I'm going to take a piece of press and seal. Let me just move this. Put this down on here, because I want to keep all these pieces kind of in their place. All right, so I should have cut a piece of this before, but I forgot. Okay, let me grab my scissors. So I'm going to cut a piece of press and seal. Okay. So I'm going to put that sticky side down, and I'm going to need to deal with that tape in a second here. All right. Trim that off. Okay, I'm just going to gently kind of remove the tape from the back here. Okay. Let me just, there we go. All right. So I'm just going to rub that along here, and then I'm going to flip that back over. Now, hang on, just move that tape. Okay, so we'll see if this will, how much of this I can maneuver off. Might not be very much. So I basically want to kind of press that into my press and seal, which you can do, what I did before as well. I've just got my little, it's got a white end on it, my jewel picker. And I'm just going through on these larger pieces and pushing down on them. And then I can go through with the other pokey end and just gently press those into the press and seal. Okay. We'll see how this works, because I did not do it this way the first time around. Okay, so I'm going to just kind of find my edges here of, that would be these little tiny ones in the four corners here. And let's see if we can pull that off. There we go. All right, there we go. So I have one little piece here that didn't quite come out. Just lay that back on. There we go. It's a dot. It's not a big deal. Okay. So now I've got all these inner pieces, okay, are on my press and seal. And then I can just gently go through and peel off that background. That's essentially what I did the first time around on the card I just showed you, okay, where we've got this negative piece, okay. So this is actually a super fun die because you can kind of layer all these flower pieces together, layer them on top of each other, okay. So if I was going to use this negative piece, then I could just peel it right off. Now, what I also can do, I can leave this in place like this. And if you want to add some color to your florals, I can do that right on this sheet. So just quickly grab some ink here. Okay. I can ink these guys up. You could come in with your Copic markers as well. Okay, so you can, any type of die cuts that you cut them out of white, you can custom color them. So if you don't have a large stash of colored cardstock, for example, and you're putting something together, you can color it with your alcohol markers or colored pencils, or you can watercolor cardstock. Okay, so that's just one thing we can do, and then we can peel that off and let's say layer that over top of another color here. Okay, but I wanted to show you how we can inlay. Okay, so this is one I did previously, and I've peeled off the negative. I've glued it onto this card front. Now, something also super handy to have if you're going to be doing die cutting is double-sided adhesive. Okay, so I've got this roll, which die cuts really, the stuff die cuts fantastic. Okay, and I've actually already applied some to the back of this green cardstock. The nice thing is when you add double-sided adhesive to your cardstock, it kind of helps keep everything together. Then you don't have to use the press and seal. Okay, so for this particular die, now we can go ahead and we can start inlaying some of these. Okay, so this one's already got adhesive on it. So I just want to make sure, there we go, I've got that in the right spot. Now I can go ahead and add a little bit. I could add my liquid glue to the inside here, which is probably what I would do. Now another thing you could do as well, you could just put double-sided adhesive on your card front and then attach your die cut there. But now we can go through and you can inlay all these pieces. Now, if I was going to do this entire card front, I probably would not inlay all those little pieces. Those would be super awesome to pop in some gems. So you could go through, you know, go through your stash and see what kind of gems you have. I'm not going to do this, all of this right now. I'll kind of finish it and then post it in the group. Where's my little tray? I love these little triangle trays. They're awesome for your gems. Just put a few in there. But I would go ahead, I would inlay my florals, and then you could just take your gems and glue those down where those little holes are, if you don't want to try to glue in all those little pieces. So fun way to add some shine or texture, or some shine and sparkle to that. So I'll experiment with, or finish this off after the live, and then I'll post that in the group so you can see that. So that's the inlay. And there's a number of different inlay techniques. I think I watched one of Jennifer McGuire's video and she had 9 different techniques. So that is a live all by itself, just doing that in the future. Okay, so super handy with the inlay. All right, now I just want to show you, for example, this is the same floral die cut or cover die. Sorry, but I added foam adhesive to this one, okay, to all the larger flowers. So super fun look you can get, all with die cuts, okay? And like I was telling you earlier, you can actually just take your dies as well and build a background. So I just want to show you that really quick. Here is this is a die that goes for a stamp set, but what I've done now is I've just die cut the shape itself from different colored cardstock. Okay, and so now I can just go ahead and arrange that on my card front. We'll add a little glue these pieces down. All right, just add some liquid glue and just kind of arrange them however you like them till you're happy with them. That's kind of what I always say. All right. So another way you can get some extra use from your products. You don't always have to use them in the exact way that they were created to be used. So we don't have to always die cut our stamped image itself. We can actually use just the die itself to create a unique and interesting card front. Okay, so we have those glued down. Now I can just go ahead and trim off the excess. Glue's not quite dry yet, but that'll be fine. All right, got to go up both ways on here. Just give those a snip. And the last one. Okay, and then I could go through if I wanted. I've got the little pieces I snipped off. If I feel like I, want to add a little piece of a leaf somewhere in here, or like, for example, along this edge, I could do that. But we could easily bring in one of our word dies. I might, and just super simple card, put thanks in the middle, a few gems, done. So that's another way that you can use your, not necessarily even standalone dies, but just one of your any die from a stamp set as well. Okay, so layering dies. Let me bring this, whoops, my glue fell over. Let me bring back in this wonderful layering die from Altenew. And I will die cut that for you and show you how easy it is to use these guys to come together. Okay, so we've got all these various layers, and I'm going to pull all these out. These are all numbered, okay? So we've got, so you know which layers over top of which guy. So I'm just going to pull out the floral elements. I'm not going to do the leaves per se. So these ones are not labeled, but it's pretty self-explanatory where they go. You can tell by the layering guide. All right. So I want to show you one of the great, really, really fabulous things about this particular layering die set. Let me grab a piece of cardstock. Oh, we've got some blues here. We'll use these guys since they're handy. Bring back in our die cut machine. Okay. And since I've got all these various pieces, we'll see how much we can fit out of this one sheet of cardstock. And before I forget and try to die cut this without all the pieces, let me grab my plates. And where is my base plate? I don't know where it went. It has disappeared. Okay, it's underneath something. I know, underneath something. Okay, we'll just have to use our 2 plates, which I almost never do anymore. I always use that self-healing mat. Okay, so I'll get these guys on here, see how much we can fit. It'll be an interesting color combination, let's put it that way. These guys I'm going to do out of, I want a different color of blue, just so you can see it. Yeah, let's use this guy. Okay. So I'm going to run this through just our first. All right. Now you could hear that slight cracking. That's just the plates. Don't worry about it. It's not a bad thing. Nothing is breaking. That's a normal sound. Okay, and I just have to cut this guy again because for some reason I had my pieces overlapping. Okay, so you'll notice, I'm not sure if you can see it on camera, but it kind of embosses the number of the layer, okay, right onto that die cut. And this has got little arrows here, and I'll show you what that means in a second here. And this is the piece I have to recut because my die was slightly overlapped. Okay, so I've got those pieces. So I've got my layers here. Let me just die cut this other one really quick so we can see it all at once. So I can show you how it goes together. Okay, let go, dies. All right. I'm gonna run this guy back through really fast. There we go. Okay. There's that. And now I'm just going to do a couple of these 2 little pieces here real quick. I might have to do a few more, but we'll do these guys. Okay. All right, there we go. I don't want to lose that piece, so I'm just going to. Now, what I find is that if I'm going to do a lot of if I'm going to die cut, then I might as well do a whole bunch at once. And I don't have to put everything together right away, but if I do a whole bunch at once, well, I have the die cutting machine out, all the implements, then that's something you can just kind of sit. It's kind of mindless work sitting down and putting everything together. Okay, so let's start with these layering dies then. I'm going to start with layer number 1. So again, it's might be kind of faint to see, but you can just slightly see that number on there. I don't know if the camera can focus, but okay, so I'm going to start with layer number 1, and then I'm going to layer on number 2. Okay. Now on these Altenew ones, it also comes with a layering guide as well. Okay. Actually, this isn't. Just a second. All right. Sorry, there's 2 2s. Okay. So with these dies, what you're going to do is you're going to line up that little keyhole right there. And that's when you know you've got it in the right spot. That's the beauty about this system. Okay. So I've got that lined up there. Okay, now I'm going to come through. I'm going to add, this is layer number 3. And again, that's going to line up right there. And what I'll actually do is put the glue on here so I know I have it in the right spot. And if you use liquid glue, it just gives you a little bit of wiggle time. You could die cut this out of, double-sided adhesive, but then you kind of lose a little bit of your wiggle time as far as being able to move things around. Okay, this is actually a different flower, these guys. So I'll show you again with the these guys are a different flower. So here these have our little arrows, so we're just lining up our arrows. They put arrows on this one so that you know that it's for you're putting together a different floral. Okay, so I'm going to add my glue to the back of here, and I'm going to line up my arrows, and then I know I've got the right layer in the right spot. Okay, then I can come through with this one. I'm going to line that up. And these layering dies are quite fun as well, because you can add dimension to them as well. If you've got any of those flower shaping tools, you always can use those on the layers before you glue them together. But we can kind of curl and bend your petals a little bit just to add some dimension there. Okay. And so I haven't die cut all the pieces out, so maybe we'll do these centers here really quick. This is 3, this is 4 and 5. And the nice thing about these layering guides too is they give you the number as well of the die that you're putting in place. So let's quickly run this through. I've got a little bit of yellow cardstock here I can use for the centers, and we'll run that through really fast. Oh, and I just noticed where my other plates were. They're underneath my double-sided adhesive. Go figure. All right. Actually, I guess one is supposed to be a different color because they layer on top of each other. Silly. Let me just do this guy again, but out of orange. So I'm just kind of using this leftover die cut. So if you like to you don't like to part with your colored cardstock scraps, they will come in super handy if you're doing any die cutting like this with a layering die like this, or for example with the with that Spellbinders die I showed you earlier, the Envelope of Wonder die. to die cut those florals, you can definitely use your scraps for that. Okay, so these two layer on here, layer together. I'm actually not even going to use that one layer because I don't think it needs it. I'm just going to go ahead and glue number 5 right on here. Okay, add a little bit of glue. And it kind of matches that rounded edge at the bottom. Okay. And now I can come in with this layer, and this is going to go right over the top there. And you could also add these with, if you want to add a ton of dimension, with foam adhesive or 2 layers of die cuts. All right, and there is our floral. So comes together super, super easy. Yeah. So there you have it, guys. I think we talked, you got a chance to look at a whole bunch of different dies and a few techniques along the way. So that kind of is all I have for you today. Yeah, so hopefully you've enjoyed that. If you have any questions at all about die cutting machines or any of the products that you've seen in today's live, you know, just post them on the Facebook page. Oh, thanks, Melanie. It is a lot of die cutting, Jenny, and they're so, like, goodness, once you start Googling different things with die cuts, it's like, oh boy, this is a rabbit hole, a big rabbit hole. But yeah, I'll finish that inlaid card and post it on the Scrap Shotz Facebook page so you guys can kind of see how that came together, how it finished up. So thanks for hanging out with me, guys. Oh, it's 2:15 already. I talked a lot. Have a fantastic Thursday and a wonderful weekend, guys. So take care, everyone. Bye.